What's up, everybody? Welcome into Daily Betslip for Monday. Ben Heisler, Peter Dewey. Good to have you back, Peter. Good to get the show rocking and rolling again with you here. Plenty to discuss. It's slightly outside the ordinary type of show today with no Major League Baseball action going on. It's not really a whole lot on the sports calendar except for the Home Run Derby tonight, but there are plenty of wagers that you can dive into. We will, of course, go over our favorite bets for the Home Run Derby tonight. And a lot of you guys weighed in on Twitter as well, so we'll get to those coming up in just a little bit. We'll also break down our bad beat of the day. And yes, there was plenty from the final regular season game of the first half, as well as a couple of key storylines that Peter and I have put together that I think will help a lot of bettors out as we move on into the second half. Peter, it's good to see you. Welcome back. You look refreshed. You got a little bit of that beach glow from the last few days. My question is, how do you keep it? Because when the moment I get back from a beach or anywhere, it just completely disappears. I can't keep it.
I feel like it's the golf course, man. I actually haven't golfed yet, but that keeps the tan going. I'll trying to get out like once a week. That's my go-to. I probably get a better tan from golfing than I do for like spending a week on vacation at the beach, if I'm being honest. Like,
I don't know how that's possible. Because
not like full body, but like face wise.
Burn.
No, it's not. I feel like I get a nice tan when I'm golfing. When I go to the beach, I just get burnt and it's terrible. But when I'm golfing, like ends up looking better, I think.
All right, now this kind of feels like operator error because like from the level of sunscreen, like it should comply for both places to be able to get the tan. Maybe this is something. Listen, we all have second half goals and expectations for the season. Maybe this is something that you can add to the board for today.
Yeah,
I do want to talk about our bad beat of the day because it took place between the Chicago Cubs and the New York Mets yesterday. They're really good yes-run first inning teams. And for anyone that's joining us today on the program, slightly unfamiliar with the NRFI, YRFI, all that stands for is no run first inning and yes run first inning. If you've been checking out all of our stuff over at BetSided over the course of the season, you'll see plenty of content every day that's dedicated towards these types of specific prop bets. So the Mets and the Cubs, I saw this from BetStats, they're actually two of the better yes run first teams in all of baseball. Heading into the game on Sunday, they had scored in the first inning a combined 66 times. It ended up being 67, but a pretty hilarious way that they ended up getting that 67. So for anybody, Peter, that was trying to fade the yes run first inning for Cubs and Mets yesterday, did not go well. What happened?
Yeah, it was a weird play. The Mets had first and third, and the Cubs try to pick off at first base. Francisco Lindor gets caught in a rundown. He starts waving Starlin Marte home, and Cubs just like didn't realize Starling Marte was on third base. He scores easily, and they score a run. I know, Ben. At least the Cubs did end up winning the game. I will say that they did end up winning the game, so that was big because they snapped. I believe it was a 9-game losing streak, but very tough. Very tough if you had no run first inning because that's like, I mean, that's a little league play. Like you throw the pick off if the guy tries to get in a rundown, like you can't let the guy score. That's the whole point. It's either you tag him out before he scores or you just throw the ball home. And they just handed it to him. Really, really tough look.
I remember, I don't know if you remember the play, it might have been last year where Javi Baez was going up against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yes.
And do you remember this where he was about to get out at first and all of a sudden he just stopped and then started like slowly going back down the line. And the Pirates first baseman had no idea what was going on, but Baez bought just enough time where they got a run to score and he was still able to somehow get back to the bag. Base running is one of those things that I just have no patience for in professional baseball. Like either you know how to do it or you don't. It's one of those errors. Like if you mess up on a ball, I get it. But this should be like the fundamental stuff. And to watch it happen to my Cubs in the midst of a 9-game losing streak, it was basically another indication of saying, here we go again. This is going to be 10 to go into the All-Star break. And I suppose if you're a tanking team, you take every kind of loss you can, but you just want to see your team not make stupid plays. And that was a stupid play yesterday.
I will say the Pirates one was definitely worse because if I remember correctly in that game, the Pirates first baseman just had to touch first base and the inning was
Correct.
over because it was a force. And instead he decided to chase Javi Baez back. Just really terrible stuff. Terrible stuff.
I'm in like a slow pitch beer league softball league on Thursday nights in a doubleheader league. And we went from being the best in our league to joining a newer league that had tougher competition. And so far we've just gotten our asses kicked in almost every game. But I will say that for whatever reason, we got the team we were playing last Thursday night into 3 separate rundowns, and we tagged them out in all 3 of them. So not a good hitting team, not a good pitching team, not a good fielding team, fantastic team in rundowns.
There you go. Got to hang your hat on something.
Something. Yeah. Something is the key there. So yes, bad beat for anybody that was looking to try and get the no-run first inning with the Cubs and the Mets to round out their betting weekend on Sunday. So before we dive into the home run derby, and again, there's so many different areas for people to place their bets, and we'll get to some of your favorite plays as well as our 3 favorite bets for the derby tonight. I wanted to kind of take a first half bird's eye view of the season. So you and I put together sort of these 3 notes, like little bullet points that I think when looking at the season collectively, these were the things that really stood out for us, just from a fan perspective and also from a betting perspective, that I think we can really take into the second half and learn something from. So I kind of thought we can just kind of trade back and forth here. Tell me the number one thing for you that really stood out once the first half of the season ended.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the hottest team in baseball, the Seattle Mariners. They won 14 straight, set a major league record for most wins heading into the All-Star break. The 2 previous teams to do it, the winning streak was 10. They both went on to win the World Series. So I look at that and I see the Seattle Mariners at plus 7,500. And I'm like, hey, it's a pretty good value at this point in the season for how this team's playing. I was high on the Mariners coming into this year, Ben. I don't know if you remember when we wrote our preview picks. I picked them to win the AL West. They're probably not going to beat the Astros. They're still 9 games back. But I really do believe in this young team. I know you are invested heavily in the Logan Gilbert futures market. He's been fantastic for them. They have Matt Brash has been pitching well. I know they sent him down to limit his innings, but George Kirby has pitched well for them when he's been up. So they have some really good young arms. Julio Rodriguez is quickly becoming one of the best players in baseball. And to go on a winning streak like this, I don't want to say that like they're guaranteed to make a playoff spot, but they have a better record than the Minnesota Twins, who are leading the AL Central.
Yep.
Like, this is not a bad team. They have a better record than the Boston Red Sox now. They have a better record than the Toronto Blue Jays now. So now I'm starting to kind of see the vision of, if they get one of those top 2 wild card spots, they're going to be a tough out. And I think at plus 7,500, like, to get a playoff team at that number right now, all those other teams I mentioned are like 4-1 or shorter in the odds right now. So to get them at that, like, why not take a shot on it? I'm not saying, empty your bankroll on it, but I think it's worth, a little sprinkle at this point in the season with them playing this well.
Yeah, they're a team that with one more win in this winning streak, they ended the first half at 14. One more win will tie the franchise all-time record with 15 consecutive wins. The team that last did that was the 2001 Mariners team that ended up winning, I think it's still a league record, 116 games. That was with Ichiro and Edgar Martinez, John Olerud, managed by Lou Piniella. Like, that was a historic Mariners team that bowed out in the playoffs a tad bit early. But I'm with you. Once you get into the postseason, there is a lot of inherent randomness that takes place. Mm-hmm. And right now, they're 76% in the PECOTA projections at Baseball Prospectus to make the playoffs. They are also 67.6% at Fangraphs to make the playoffs. So yeah, all you need is them to get in, and then it's very much a competition. And I also like the fact too, Peter, that they've had a winning record both at home and on the road. So it's never a team that you feel all that concerned about by leaving Safeco Field. I don't know if it's Safeco Field anymore. It might be T-Mobile.
I think it's T-Mobile now, yeah.
Yeah, so and from another time. But yeah, they're a team that can win anywhere, and especially on the backs of young starting pitching and a good bullpen, and guys in the middle of the order that are really starting to produce. I like that play quite a bit. Them and Cleveland, I think, are those 2 teams way sort of at the bottom, and at least Seattle, they're probably getting in. Cleveland still has a shot in a bad division. Mm-hmm. And I kind of think it leads into one of my key storylines is just how brutal the Chicago White Sox season has been. They've played better. They're 46-46 to end the first half. But Peter, make no mistake about it, this was a team that was supposed to run away with the AL Central Division. They brought in Tony La Russa last year. They had one of the better records in the first half of the season last year. And really, this is kind of the 1-year anniversary of when things have really started to spin out of control for Chicago. They were very mediocre. I believe they were under 500 in the second half last year, hovering around 500 now, third place in the worst division in baseball. There's reports of animosity that the clubhouse is cliquey, according to Bob Nightingale, that guys aren't getting along. There's injuries. There's a lot of frustrations right now with the Southsiders, and they need to figure out something fast because they're not gelling right now. This is a team that at the beginning of the season was 10-1 to win the World Series at some books, 12-1. And now right now they're sitting anywhere from 30-1 to 40-1 and are right around that 50-50 mark in betting markets to make the playoffs entirely. If things don't turn around for the White Sox, it's a colossal failure for a team that is as talented as any in the American League. And yes, I think from a talent level, Peter, they have the talent with the Yankees and the Astros, but they have not put it together in any fashion, and it's been a complete and utter disappointment for them.
They're an interesting team because I wonder if they're a team, depending upon the number, I wouldn't bet them to win the World Series because, like you said, there's just been so many things have gone wrong. I feel like it's total, kind of said, do not bet this team to win the World Series. But to make the playoffs, I think there might be some value there because I believe they're only 3 games behind the Twins now. The Twins really limped into the All-Star break. They only won 3 of their last 10 games.
Yep.
And so, I could see them if they could turn this around in the second half. Or like you said, this division stinks. I mean, both the AL and the NL Central are really bad this year. So they could beat up on some division games with the Tigers and the Royals. And if they win a series against the Twins, win a series against the Guardians, they're going to leapfrog them just with how close everything is. So I wouldn't mind taking a shot on them as a potential playoff team. But at the same time, it's they've played 92 games and nothing has changed. So to sit there and I was waiting for their number to really, really drop in the early on, and it just didn't. They kept it, like you said, around 10, 12-1, 20-1 was and now it's starting to really fall off because we've played over half the season. But I mean, they're the only way you catch me betting on this White Sox team is to make the playoffs, and it would have to be at a decent value because I just don't see the vision. They're just not that good of a team.
So they are minus 140 to make the playoffs. They're plus 115 to miss. If you want to bet them to win the division, I know that DraftKings has them at plus 125. The Twins are just at plus 100 or plus 110, I should say. To me, I still think the clear-cut, opportunistic team to bet on there is the Cleveland Guardians. I have them at, I think, 101 to win the World Series, maybe a little bit higher if I'm not mistaken. I think I also got them around plus 500 to win the division. They're right in it. They're 2 games out behind Minnesota.
Yeah.
Chicago's 3 games out of the division. It's going to be a fairly compelling race, but Chicago has not hit. They have not pitched well at all, and a lot of these strengths of their team really just haven't come into play. So those are one of ours, at least from leaning in on the first half, moving into the second half. What's another one for you?
Yeah, so the next one I'm going to talk about is probably the most surprising team. The Baltimore Orioles are 500 at the All-Star break. If you told me that heading into the season, I would have laughed. But they're actually a good baseball team. I like what they did in the MLB draft, too. We don't have to touch too much on it, but getting Jackson Holliday, the son of Matt Holliday, with the number 1 pick. I really like this Orioles team. They're probably not going to sneak into a wild card spot just because of the way the AL East is. But if you put them right now, they'd be tied. They're tied with the White Sox. We're talking about the White Sox as a potential playoff team because of their division. They have the same record as the Baltimore Orioles, which is crazy. But the thing I like about the Orioles, and I think the betting way to look at this, they are the best team on the run line at home and the best team on the run line in all of baseball.
Yeah.
It seems like the Orioles will still be considered underdogs a lot of the times, most of the time because of their starting pitching is not, they don't have any ace on their team, especially with John Means done for the year. So you're going to see a lot of times where they're put as an underdog, even at home. And you just got to jump on it at this point because they're not only covering, they're winning these games too. So I think the Orioles, they're one of the teams I've been trying to back. as a plus money underdog, especially at home. I just think the second half of the season, like I don't expect this team to kind of cool off. It's a bunch of young guys. Like they're kind of just like playing with house money at this point. So I think it's a great way to kind of look at them as a team to target in the second half.
Obviously, the winning streak was impactful. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. At even money right now, or sorry, not even money, but an even record of 46-46. They've been great at home too. They're 25-17. My concern, obviously, is just that division. Like, there's not going to be any games where the Yankees or the Rays or the Blue Jays or the Red Sox are going to give them off. And against teams that are above 500, the Orioles are 28-35. So yeah, you go and play the Tigers and maybe the White Sox and the Royals and the Angels and the Athletics, perhaps even the Rangers. Like, yeah, there's a good chance that you might be able to get some value there. But here's the other problem, though, Peter. Like, the first half, everyone was just waiting for the Orioles to come down to earth. And they were still being listed as big moneyline underdogs and plus 1.5 on the run line. I don't know if they're going to get that same type of treatment in the second half. And that concerns me a little bit.
Yeah, I think we'll have to see with that. I just also thought it would have happened. I mean, they've been hovering around 500 for about a month now, and nothing has really changed. They're still dominating on the run line. So until like they start getting favored in a lot of these games, like I'm going to back them as an underdog because a lot of the time they're either going to win the game outright or they're at least going to keep it close. And they have one of the 5 best bullpens in baseball this year, which I think not a lot of people know or are talking about, but they have a great bullpen ERA. Their closer, Jorge Lopez, is an all-star. Like, so it's a team where if they can hang around in the beginning of the game, they're going to keep it close. And that's all you're looking for when you're betting the run line.
All right, so I mentioned the Orioles being a really solid home team this year, but I think that goes in line with my next point and my next observation of second half things to be on the lookout for from the first half. You're going to see, assuming that things start to fall back to where we've seen them be over the last 10 plus years, that you're going to see more home teams start to win more games in the second half of the season. This is one of the lowest rates we've seen from home teams since 2013. I actually wrote about this about a week or so ago over at BetSided. So going and taking a look at Major League Baseball home team records per season since 2013, this year in 2022, it's 52.1%. That is by far and away the lowest number in that time. The second lowest number was 52.8% in 2018, with the highest number being 55.5% in 2020. Right now, you're seeing that low number, Peter, but one other thing to consider, in the month of July, this was as of last week, I need to double check some of this heading in, but home teams in the month of July, as of a week ago, were 85-62, hitting at just under 58%. So already at the start and moving into July and into the second half, you're already starting to see more of these home teams perform better in their home ballpark. And I do think if the law of averages and also expectations in a long sample size is indicative of anything that we can learn here, it's that we're going to start seeing some more home teams perform better. Games are going to have some more meaning. You're going to start to see some of these deadline deals get worked out. So some of the worst teams are less likely to pull off some of these upsets. Mm-hmm. I think you'll start to see more home teams perform at a better number. I wouldn't blindly just start betting on all home teams, but I do think you can take a look at the matchup and have it play more of an effect than perhaps you would have seen in the first half this year.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I like what you said, about the trade deadline too. Like, you're going to see some of these teams, like you said, that are out of it, that have been stealing these games on the road sometimes. And like, that's just not going to be the case if they trade away some of their better players and they're just bringing up prospects or just kind of bringing in replacement level players in those spots. So I think you make a great point. Like, it's got to come back to the mean at some point. So why not try and start it in the second half, see if you can get some luck on some home teams and then go from there.
All right, we got 2 on the books for each of us. What's your third on your list?
Yeah, my last one, I kind of alluded to it, the trade deadline. One of the things I think we have to do just in any kind of league when you come up towards the deadline is I would wait on a couple of these teams before placing a future, unless you think they're going to make a massive trade that's going to like change their odds. Yeah. Because the way I'm looking at it is like, the last thing you want to do right now is bet on, whoever it ends up being, the Twins, say, and then the Guardians make a deal at the deadline and the Twins do nothing. And then you're going to be like, well, why did I put this Twins ticket in? Like, there's just no reason for that. So I think the AL East might be one of the best divisions to look at it that way, because I'd assume Boston, Toronto, New York, and maybe even Tampa Bay, even though they're traditionally aren't, are all going to try and be buyers in this market. So, like, if you're trying to pick one of those teams to make the playoffs, maybe even put one of those teams to win the World Series, like, I would wait and see, because we've seen the Red Sox have claimed to be buyers before under Chaim Bloom, and they haven't really made the big splashy move. They just kind of, like, last year, we all thought they were going to get an arm. They got Hansel Robles. Like, he was good for them last year, don't get me wrong, but he got DFA'd this year. So, like, the way you got to look at it is, I think some of these teams, if you're really, like, sold on the number now, sure, go ahead. But if you're like, oh, I'm thinking about the Red Sox, give it 2 weeks. If they make a major deal, that might be the move where you can say, okay, now I'm all in on this team.
Yeah. And again, timing is everything there, because there's also a lot of overreaction to the trade market as well.
Yes.
So I'm with you. Like, you need to know who is going to be firmly in the buyer category and firmly in the seller category. And again, like, you tee me up perfectly, Peter, because that goes in line with my final observation on the board, is that you're going to have a trade deadline this year that is as aggressive as ever, adding in the third wildcard team. Yes. So I was taking a look at the latest American League and National League standings. In the American League, outside of the 3 division leaders so far, there are about 7 to 9 teams in the discussion for one of these 3 wildcard spots. I've listed only 3 sellers in the American League. The Oakland Athletics were 32-61, the Royals were 36-56, and the Tigers are 37-55. I didn't include the Angels, because even though the Angels are 14 games under 500 and they're 2-8 in their last 10 games, and they've been one of the worst teams since the end of May, they're only 10.5 games back of the wild card. Like, it is conceivable that a team with Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani could still possibly make a run and make things a little bit more interesting. I'm not ready to completely rule them out just yet. It's an absolute long shot, but I don't put them in the same category as that of Oakland and Kansas City and Detroit. In the National League, it's pretty much the same. There's 8 teams that I believe are in discussion and in the conversation for one of these 3 wildcard spots, with the only sellers being the Nationals at 31-63, the Reds at 34-57, Chicago, the Cubs at 35-57, and Pittsburgh 39-54. And again, if we're making the same argument that the Angels, what's that?
They're in the combo still, technically. Like
they're just like the Angels. They're only 10.5 games back of that final wild card spot. Now, again, like, it's all sort of dependent on whether or not Pittsburgh thinks that they need to continue to rebuild and acquire more assets for when they do believe they're going to be competitive. But it's just not going to be something that they're racing towards. So I'd probably still put them in that sellers category. But if they go on a run and all of a sudden find themselves 6-7 games back of the wild card, which is very possible at this point in a matter of a couple weeks, yeah, Pittsburgh might even be looking to try and add on, especially given some of their struggles over the last couple of years. I see that I think it's Trisho TV. I don't know if it's Trisiao or Trisho or there's some sort of French aspect in. But as far as top 3 home run derby picks, we'll get to those coming up in a minute. But again, for some of these storylines, Peter, for anybody that's just coming in, the 3 things that I think folks should learn about, I'll do mine first, and then I'll toss it back to you before we dive into the derby. I think the White Sox, clearly the biggest disappointment from the first half. I think you should expect more home wins from home teams coming up in the second half of the season. They're way off course from what we've seen over the last 10 years. And the wild card on all the potential buyers is going to be substantial, with maybe only 6 or 7 teams selling at the deadline. What about for you?
Yeah, so the 3 I got is we got history tells us Mariners. I think the Mariners are a value bet right now. The number's just not right for where this team is in the playoff category. I think the Orioles are a sneaky team, especially at home on the run line to bet on. Continue doing it because they've been really good this year. And then the last one, I just think we talked about timing in the trade deadline, like in the trade market. You just got, if you really are sold on a team, just pull the trigger. But if you're like, you need the little extra push, just give it 2 weeks till the deadline. Like, it's going to be here like that. Like, it's going to be here so fast. So I think it's worth waiting and seeing, just especially if you're taking a team to make the playoffs, because like you mentioned, there's so many teams in the conversation. You don't want to get burned by, somebody you thought was going to be a buyer ends up being a seller, and then you're just like, oh well, why did I put myself in in that basket. So those are the three I'm looking at.
All right, so plenty more baseball conversation that you can find over at BetSided. But let's dive into the game of the night, the event of the night. It's baseball's home run derby. Lots of different places you can find your odds. I actually wrote about it over at BetSided today. If you're looking for the best odds for a particular player, you can head on over to BetSided. We put that list together for you amongst all the different major sports books on the board. Before we get into our picks, Peter, let's take a look at some of our favorite picks that we got in via Twitter today, and we can go ahead and see whether or not they might be in line with what we're looking to do. So what is the first pick on the board from our Twitter audience today? This is from Phil DeMann. Julio Rodriguez makes the finals but loses. Peter, I know you're high on Rodriguez. Just talked about him for Seattle. He gets all the way to the finals. It's tough in your first event to make it all the way there, but I know you buy in on his talent quite a bit.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about Julio, how I'm betting him tonight. But yeah, I don't mind that. I don't think the path is impossible for him. He might get some help from Ronald Acuna too. If Ronald Acuna knocks off Pete Alonso, I think that kind of opens the door for him.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I do think that's a potential sneaky play that might surprise a lot of people, but I think Acuna is certainly potentially live in that spot that a lot of folks are going to have him counted out. What's the next Twitter prediction that we got in on Daily Betslip today? From Eric, I think Pujols wins the Derby. So apparently Eric and BetSided's Josh Urich all might have the same tin hat on when it comes to their Albert Pujols conspiracy theories. So Pujols is going up against Kyle Schwarber in the first round, and it's a celebration. Pujols, obviously a future Hall of Famer. Josh was kind of joking that he thinks he might get grooved a few better pitches, but the problem is everyone gets grooved pitches. Like, it's batting practice. So I just don't envision a scenario in which Pujols ends up winning. He's obviously one of the greatest hitters of our generation, if not, one of the best of all time, Peter. But there's a reason why Albert Pujols is getting close to 40 and announcing that this is his retirement year. For Kyle Schwarber, it's anything but.
Yeah, I will say last year, I believe Trey Mancini had the longest odds, and he ended up making the final. So it's not impossible. Trey Mancini is also like 10 years younger than Albert Pujols.
Right.
Like, I just don't know if Pujols is going to have the stamina to hold up in this. But who knows? It's the home run derby, so really anything can happen. I just think, like, Pujols has never won one before either. It's not like he has, like, history of being, like, a great derby guy. So it's worth a shot at the odds if you really want to, like, root for it. I wouldn't do it. But
all right,
he's what?
22 to 1.
Yeah.
I believe FanDuel has it at 24 to 1. Like
if you really want to, I guess I wouldn't touch it. But if you really want to, I guess it's pretty, like, you're gonna get a decent payday if it does happen. So I guess that's like the one side of, like, positive. But
this is the baseball equivalent of, like, putting $10 or $20 on Tiger to win a major now.
You think? I don't know if it's that long, because I thought the same thing about Mancini last year. I was like, there's no way he wins. And then he got to the final, and I was like, oh, my God, he might win. So, Tiger to win a major, that's
totally different. Yeah, Mancini, like, yes, he was an underdog, but that's because his profile in the sport wasn't at the same level. Trey Mancini's a really good player.
No, I know he is.
Known as a dominant power hitter, but, I mean, he was in Colorado, where I think that played into effect too. Like, Dodger Stadium is not always the easiest stadium to hit home runs in.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Albert Pujols did play half the season for the Dodgers. He got a little home cooking going on over there.
God, like the homecoming narrative for Albert Pujols in Los Angeles. Like, what a time to be alive.
That would be something. It would be something. Right. I wouldn't touch him.
If you want, Eric, and you want to go ahead and do whatever it would be, like $4 and something to try and turn it into $100, by all means, man. Like, you had something to root for until Schwarber just demolishes him in the first round. So I wish you all the best. What about the final one on the board for tonight? Who do we have? It's our guy Cody. Exact result: Pete Alonso over Kyle Schwarber. It's chalk, but it seems likely. First of all, Cody, wherever you got those odds, please share them with us, because that was not available where we were looking tonight. The best I saw for that was maybe plus 400. I saw most books at plus 350. Those are the top two favorites on the board to face up. So kudos to you. You got him at plus 600, and I really can't argue that. It's two of the more of the, you got the back-to-back champion, and you got the home run leader in baseball on the National League in Schwarber. Like, hard to argue with that possible matchup, Peter.
Yeah, those are some great odds. I need Cody to place a bet for me. Jeez, what's going on here? How did he get that?
You know how to get a hold of us, man. We'll go ahead and jump in on a side bet with you there. But let's actually and put our money where our mouth is. You have 3 plays on the Derby. I have 3 plays on the Derby. First and foremost, Peter, tell me who's winning it tonight.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be Julio Rodriguez. I alluded to it. It's gonna be Julio Rodriguez. Listen, the home run derby, like, you can try and break this down and handicap it as much as you want, but it's like I said last year, like Trey Mancini, nobody gave him a prayer and he made the finals. Like, it just really depends on who's hot that night. And like, the thing I will say with Julio Rodriguez, like, he's gonna be fun. Like, really fun tonight. The energy, like him and Acuna, I'm praying that ends up being a second round matchup, because I just think they're going to be the two most like electric guys there. Like, just in terms of like, they're going to hit the ball really far and they're going to get the crowd into it. So that's kind of what I'm rooting for. But at the same time, Julio's path, like I said, if Pete Alonso gets bounced by Ronald Acuna, because like Pete Alonso is the favorite, rightfully so, he's won 2 in a row. Acuna, I could see Acuna ending up winning this whole thing. So like, I like that Alonso gets a tough first round matchup. I think Julio blows through Corey Seager. I'm not really worried about Corey Seager. He's not like a power bat necessarily. Like, again, it's the Derby, but that's not like his game.
Longtime former Dodger though, knows the park better than anybody.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's true. That's true. Him and Albert Pujols are just walking around getting standing O's before. But no, I think Julio has a good chance to advance to the second round, and then whoever comes out of that Acuna-Alonso matchup might be gassed. So I like Julio in that spot. And then if he gets to the finals, anything can happen. Obviously, Schwarber's scary. Juan Soto's scary. But I think when you're betting on the winner, you got to bet somebody you have you can see the path they get to the final. And then from there, it's just whatever happens. So that's kind of the narrative I built in my head. I don't know if anybody else is going to agree with that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. He's the guy that I like to move on in the second round. I like him over Seager as well. My pick to win the Derby is the aforementioned Juan Soto. He's 6-1. Starting to see his number start to creep down just a tad. So third on the list behind Pete Alonso and Kyle Schwarber. You talked about the draw. I think it's incredibly important because he goes up against Jose Ramirez, who is arguably one of the game's best hitters right now, but not a particularly known power bat. He's also plus 1,600 to win the Derby, so odds makers have no faith in Ramirez to make this interesting. And Soto participated in this event a year ago and beat the favorite Shohei Ohtani in a double swing off. So he knows how to handle that pressure. And he only lost by 1 home run to Alonso last year, and that was coming off of a double swing off. So he's 23 years old. The recovery time is more than enough. He also understands that the home run derby can actually have a very positive impact on your second half, which is something that he experienced last year. And I saw this note from Casey Bubba that I wanted to share. Talked about having a good eye at the plate right now. So in 26 plate appearances over his last 6 games, Juan Soto was hitting .350 with 3 home runs, 5 runs scored, 6 RBIs, a 23% walk percentage, and did not strike out once. So now he gets to go and get a bunch of fastballs grooved wherever he wants it in the middle of the plate. I think I'm actually kind of stunned that his odds are this high on the board. It's 6-1. I think he's probably should be somebody in line with Schwarber at plus 330. So I love Juan Soto tonight, and I think the draw for him to get there sets up really, really nicely.
I love his draw, and I really hope I don't get freezing cold takes for this, but Jose Ramirez is not winning this Derby. The last switch hitter to win was Ruben Sierra in 1989. So we're looking at 33 years now. And like, it's, again, nothing against Jose Ramirez. It's just a lot of these guys, they have their home run swing on these power hitters. It's the one side of the plate. Jose Ramirez, like, he's got to pick. Do I want to swing lefty or righty? Like that's a hard choice to make. We've seen, I forgot who it was, but I remember growing up, there was somebody who switched midway through the Derby, which side they're hitting from. Like, it's just, you just can't, like, it's just not the same as a guy like Schwarber, Soto, like these guys who just, this is their swing every single time. Like, I don't love the idea of him potentially having to do that. So I would not bet on Jose Ramirez. So that makes the Soto draw even better to me. So I like that play too.
All right, so we've given out the 2 picks that we have to win the home run derby outright. What else is on your card for tonight?
Yeah, so I'm talking about 2 guys that we've talked about a lot on the show already. So my next one is Albert Pujols under 18.5 home runs, minus 110. Albert Pujols, I do not see him making the second round. So that's really what this bet is like Albert Pujols, but it's better odds than taking Schwarber to win. I think Schwarber's like minus 305. Some crazy number what he is to beat Pujols in that first round.
I can tell you in just a second.
Yeah, I saw it this morning and I was just like, there's no, because I think Pujols was plus 275. And I was like, I mean, there's no way I'd even bother betting on Schwarber. Like, there's
Schwarber via WinBet right now to advance in the first round is minus 350. Pujols is plus 270. Yep.
Yeah, no way. So I think Pujols under 18.5 home runs. I just don't know, like, the stamina aspect. Like you said, Dodger Stadium, notorious hitter park, or notorious pitcher park. Like, maybe he surprises all of us. I think he hits a couple, like, really deep home runs. The crowd gets fired up, and he ends up with, like, 6. Like, that's kind of the way I'm seeing this go for him. So, yeah, I'm out on the Albert Pujols business.
I just thought about something. They should have – maybe nobody gets this joke. They should have Brad Lidge pitch to Albert Pujols.
He might win the competition if Brad Lidge pitches to him.
Yes, and then the ball will still be going by the time the next person is up in the home run derby. And I love Brad Lidge. He used to be a former coworker of mine many years ago at MLB Network Radio. So kind of talked about this a little bit, but it's another play off of Soto. My second play on my betting card is Juan Soto and Pete Alonso to match up in the home run derby finals. You can get those odds at plus 550. To me, it's kind of a hedge on Soto if he gets there, but then ultimately loses. And I still think Alonso has a solid draw to get there. It's just a matter of whether or not I think if he gets past Acuna in the first round, he's into the finals. I think it just sets up really well for him. And remember, these 2 guys faced off against each other in the second round last year. Alonso ended up beating him by 1. So he's somebody that knows how to win this derby. Like, his swing is designed perfectly for it. And I like it that you can get better odds for this than just picking him outright to try and just get both of those guys in there. The other crazy thing about Alonso is that he has an all-time record of most total home runs hit at the Derby with 132. I'll give you bonus points, Peter. Maybe you edited my story, so maybe you remember. Do you know who is second behind Pete Alonso in all-time home runs at the Derby?
I want to say Josh Hamilton, but I might be wrong.
It's a great guess. It's Jock Peterson.
Really?
Yes. So Jock Peterson has 99 home runs split up between 2 home run derbies in 2015 and 2019. And yet he's still 32 home runs behind Pete Alonso, and they've both participated in the same amount of home run derbies. Isn't that wild?
That's insane. Holy crap.
So he knows this event, and he knows how to club dingers at this event. So yeah, Alonso and Soto to meet in the finals, plus 550. All right, those are 2. Give me your final one on your card.
Yeah, we're going to stick with Juan Soto. I'm taking him to make the final at plus 230. Didn't get too cute with any of these. I tried to keep everything kind of just a solo bet, so I'm rooting for one guy. It's going to be tough. I like your play, that last one. I think it's worth it, especially to hedge the Soto. I don't trust myself to get both sides of the bracket right, so I'm going to give myself one pick on each side, basically. I got the Julio side and then him playing against Soto. Like I said, Jose Ramirez is not beating Soto. It's not going to happen. So I think he gets into the semis, and then the semifinal matchup, like, it's either going to be Schwarber or Pujols. If somehow Albert Pujols gets through, Juan Soto's winning. Schwarber might win, but I think I might have been Reed who mentioned it in his pick that, like, Soto obviously was in this event last year. Schwarber hasn't done it in 4 years, so might be a little might be a little rust for Schwarber there. So I don't mind it. I was debating taking Soto and Rodriguez, just both of them to win, and just hoping one of them won, but I honestly don't mind this either. This way I can hopefully win all 3 of my bets. Probably won't happen, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, we've laid out the Soto path a million times. I feel like it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fun to that. And by the way, if you do want to bet on Juan Soto and Julio Rodriguez matching up in the finals, you can get it at 13-1 right now at DraftKings. Just something to consider. All right, final one of the night for me. This was available, depending on where you look, either as its own separate bet, or you can do it over at WynnBET as a parlay. I was able to get these four together at plus 750. WynnBET has it at plus 706, so still very favorable odds. First round matchup winners, like getting them all exactly right. I have the favorites in Kyle Schwarber, Juan Soto, and Julio Rodriguez, but I'm adding in Ronald Acuna Jr. At plus 145 over Pete Alonso for a lot of the reasons that we already talked about. The fact is Acuna Jr. has done well in this event before. He actually lost in the second round a few years ago. I think it was also back in 2019 to Pete Alonso by 1 home run. So there's an NL East matchup here. There's an opportunity for revenge in the first round. Remember, all the expectations are going to be on Alonso heading into this event. So I think, again, another sort of slight opportunity to hedge amongst the betting card. But Acuna matched in with all three other favorites to move on, who we all really like, and Schwarber over Pujols, Juan Soto over, I'm blanking out on
Ramirez.
Against. Yes, on Jose Ramirez, and then Julio Rodriguez over Corey Seager. Like, all you need is just one of those to go right, and then you back Acuna as an underdog, and it really brings up the number quite well, up to plus 700, plus 750, depending on where you look. So you can either get that as a parlay, or you can do it as its own single bet, depending on what sports book you're looking at. But yeah, three favorites and Acuna to go the rest of the way.
I like it. I'm really starting to convince myself that this Acuna Pete Alonso matchup is going to be like a barn burner, and it's going to give Julio a freebie to the finals. I really think that's what's going to happen, because I think those two guys, Acuna being a 7 seed, is absolutely like it's so bad. That should not happen. I don't care that he's only had 8 home runs. Like, that's ludicrous. I feel bad for Pete Alonso, because that's just a terrible first round matchup.
Well, the other thing to consider is, yeah, he has 8 home runs, but he also leads the majors this year in home run distance.
Exactly. He's hitting bombs.
He's not a bona fide scrub participating in this event. Like, Ronald Acuna absolutely belongs. So those are our bets. Let's take one last look at the board and go over them one more time before we wrap up the show. Pete is going with Julio Rodriguez plus 850 to win the home run derby. He's not putting on his tinfoil hat for Albert Pujols. He's taking the under 8.5 on total home runs hit tonight. And Juan Soto plus 230 to make the home run derby final. Speaking of Juan Soto, I like him to win it at plus 600 tonight. I also like him to go up against Pete Alonso at plus 550 in the home run derby finals. And then a bit of a hedge on the Alonso play, but Ronald Acuna Jr., Kyle Schwarber, Juan Soto, and Julio Rodriguez at plus 706 at WynnBET. Again, depending on where you look, you might be able to find better numbers, but all 4 of them as a parlay to move on out of the first round. Excited for some possibilities, Peter, on the board. A lot of big numbers, a lot of big odds to be able to enjoy our home run derby with tonight.
Exactly. That's the best part. That's the best part right there.
A lot of fun on the board. So even though there's no actual regular season games to bet on, the Derby will provide plenty of opportunities. And that, of course, is our show. It is the Daily Betslip. We'll be back again tomorrow.
We got to get the Twitter poll, too.
Oh, did I skipped out on the Twitter poll?
We got to get the Twitter poll, Ben.
Got to get the Twitter poll in.
Can't get out of here without the Twitter poll.
You're going to be shocked by this, Peter, but the Twitter polls go in with the favorite. They have voted. They have decided. They are going with the polar bear, Pete Alonso, at 2-1. Man, all these great odds on the board, and I love you guys. I love our Twitter and our YouTube community, but man, really, the favorites.
The community just said we're picking winners here. We're not listening to you guys give us your narratives. We're picking winners. I don't know. 3 in a row. If Pete Alonso wins 3 in a row, he should be banned from the Derby next year. I'm tired of watching this guy win the Derby. I'm over it.
The Yankees fan is tired of winners. Yeah, get all that winning out of here. Yeah, no, that's really relatable. No, you
do the Aaron Judge method. You win it and you never do it again. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, it's just someone's got to knock you out. So go ahead and defend that championship. If you want to ride off into the sunset, I mean, it's like 28 years old. I think that's ridiculous. But Twitter, YouTube, you guys are all going with Pete Alonso tonight. So while we wish you luck, we don't wish you that much luck. We'll place a small wager on it to join in on the fun. So with that being said, now that we got the poll in, appreciate all of you guys hanging out with both myself and Peter. It will be on tomorrow's show, Reed Donovan. They'll have plenty of thoughts on the upcoming MLB All-Star game and lots more bets along the way as well. So for my guy Peter, also big thanks to Joanne, our producer and director. I am Ben. Make sure you guys head on over to BetSided. Check out all of our content for the Home Run Derby, the All-Star game, and beyond to become a little bit more informed, have some fun along the way. We will see you again tomorrow for a brand new edition of the Daily Bet Slip. Until then, so long may all of your Home Run Derby best bets hit. Take it easy.